You can't even carry a plate straight, and you think you belong in this restaurant? Look at this!
Oh, man.
Ha!
Did you see her face?
You're a disaster, an absolute disaster.
Don't talk back to
Get
me.
it together or get out.
Go on. Talk to your deaf daughter. His voice cut through the room like a blade. And people like you. He sneered, leaning back with that billionaire arrogance, don't even know how to talk properly. For a second, the entire restaurant froze. Glasses stopped midair. Conversations died in throats. All eyes shifted to Nina, the black waitress standing perfectly still as the man with limitless money tried to strip her of dignity in front of everyone. But what none of them knew was that this moment, this humiliation, was only the beginning of a downfall he never saw coming. This is the story behind The Night a Billionaire Mocked a Mother and Paid the Price. Welcome, story lovers. From where are you watching? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. Before the incident that would expose the quiet, prejudices simmering beneath polished smiles and sparkling chandeliers, Nina's life moved with a steady rhythm. She was a young black single mother, balancing two worlds with a strength she never boasted about. By day, she navigated the joyful chaos of raising her daughter, Amani, a bright, creative little girl born deaf. By night, she worked at Bel Aria, one of the city's most prestigious high-end restaurants, where billionaires whispered over wine that cost more than her monthly rent. Nina had learned to navigate Bel Aria with the kind of grace that made customers feel invisible walls soften around them. Her co-workers admired her calm presence, the warmth she brought to every table, and the gentle confidence she carried, even when exhaustion pulled at her eyes. To most people, she was just the friendly waitress with the soft smile. Few knew about the extra battles she fought outside those walls, doctor appointments, school forms, the relentless worry of a mother who wanted her child to feel heard in a world that didn't always listen. Every evening before work, Nina would drop by the small apartment she shared with Amani. She'd check her daughter's homework, sign a few silly jokes back and forth, and watch the little girl's hands dance in the air, energetic, expressive, beautifully alive. Those moments restored her, reminding her why she worked so hard. But lately, Nina sensed a shift in the atmosphere at the restaurant. A new wave of wealthy clients had started coming in. People who didn't see staff as people at all. Their eyes lingered too long. Their tone always carried the weight of entitlement, as if money gave them permission to measure someone's worth in glances and gestures. Still, Nina kept moving, kept smiling, kept hoping the night ahead would be like any other. But it wouldn't be. Because tonight, a man whose wealth filled headlines and whose arrogance filled entire rooms was about to put her dignity and her daughter to the test. And the moment he walked through the doors of Bel Aria, Nina's life would never look the same again. The night began like any other. Muted jazz drifting through the dining hall, soft candlelight reflecting off crystal glassware, and servers weaving between tables with rehearsed elegance. Nina steadied herself with a quiet breath, tightening her apron before stepping into the glow of Bel Aria's evening rush. She didn't know that a storm was already forming at table 9. He arrived with the kind of presence that made the air shift before he even spoke. Damien Harwood, billionaire investor, tabloid favorite, and the embodiment of unchecked privilege. His security moved ahead of him, parting the space like royalty arriving for a coronation. Nina had seen wealthy men before. Bel Aria thrived on them. But Damien carried a colder aura, one that suggested he didn't just expect respect. He demanded it. From across the room, Nina noticed the moment the maitre d' stiffened. Then came the glances, the whispers, the unspoken rule suddenly becoming a visible line in the air. Everyone knew serving Damien Harwood could make or break your night. But Nina didn't flinch when her name was called. She had faced far worse. As she approached the table, Damien barely acknowledged her human presence. His eyes skimmed her like she was another piece of the restaurant's decor. He barked orders without looking up, each word clipped, impatient. There was something in his tone, a sharp edge meant to remind her of her place. But Nina held herself steady, responding with calm professionalism. She'd learned long ago that integrity didn't need permission to exist, not even from men like him. After taking his order, she slipped into the back hall where staff briefly exhaled between demands. That was when she saw Amani enter, accompanied by Ms. Lucero, the kindly neighbor who watched her on late shifts. Amani ran into Nina's arms, her small hands shaping excitement through signs. Ms. Lucero explained that a nearby power outage had forced them to leave the apartment early, and the restaurant was the safest place for now. Nina smiled, grateful. She guided Amani to the corner booth, promising they'd head home as soon as her tables cleared. But when Nina returned to Damien's table with his meal, the rising tension broke with a single chilling moment. Damien spotted Amani across the room, her expressive signing catching his eye. His brow furrowed with confusion first, then twisted into something uglier. He waved Nina over with a gesture so dismissive that nearby diners exchanged uncomfortable glances. When she reached his table, he leaned back, voice amplified just enough to command the room. He questioned her presence, her daughter's presence, and the kind of establishment that would allow such distractions. His words weren't simply rude. They carried the quiet venom of someone who believed people like Nina didn't belong in the same world as him. Before Nina could respond, Damien's gaze locked on Amani again, his expression sharpened with disgust. And then, with a sneer that cut through the restaurant's silence, he uttered a sentence that made Nina's heart collapse into itself. The moment everything changed, the moment dignity became a battle line drawn across the entire dining hall, a moment that would define the rest of the night and expose who Damien Harwood truly was. It happened in a single brutal instant, loud enough for every fork to pause in midair, every whisper to evaporate into stunned silence. Damien's voice sliced through the room, dripping with arrogance and disdain as he stared at Amani like she was an inconvenience placed in his line of sight. He sneered, his lip curling with theatrical disgust. And then he said it, words so sharp they felt like they were designed to wound. He demanded that Nina control her child. Then, with a mocking laugh, he ordered her to go talk to your deaf daughter if she wants attention. The room froze. Amani, oblivious to the venom in his tone, signed something playful toward Nina, her hands full of innocence. Damien mimicked her movements crudely, waving his arms in exaggerated mocking shapes. Laughter, his laughter, echoed against marble walls. Nina felt heat flood her chest, a mix of humiliation and protective fury. The restaurant blurred around her as 1,000 emotions collided. She wanted to scream. She tried to shield her daughter. She wanted to disappear. But she stood there, rooted, trembling, not with fear, but with a strength she didn't know she carried. Every gaze shifted to her. Staff, diners, strangers witnessing a mother's dignity under attack. Damien leaned back, satisfied, as if he'd proven some twisted point. But what he didn't expect, what no one expected, was what happened next. Because Nina didn't break. She stepped forward, voice steady, eyes blazing, not just for her daughter, but for every moment she had swallowed injustice in silence. And as the entire restaurant watched, the balance of power shifted. Tonight, the billionaire wasn't teaching the lesson, he was about to receive one. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. For a moment, the entire restaurant held its breath, waiting to see how Nina would respond. But she didn't shout, didn't tremble, didn't let anger swallow her. Instead, she lifted her chin and spoke with a clarity that cut deeper than any insult Damien had hurled. She explained, calmly, powerfully, that Amani communicated through her hands because the world had taken her hearing, but it hadn't taken her spirit. She reminded him and everyone listening that disability was not a spectacle and motherhood was not something to be mocked. Her voice carried the weight of every unspoken humiliation she'd endured as a black woman in affluent spaces built to exclude her. Diners began to shift uncomfortably. A few nodded. Some looked ashamed. But the most shocking reaction came from a small group at a nearby table, executives from a major philanthropic foundation. They had heard everything, and they had seen enough. Before Nina finished speaking, one of them stood and addressed Damien directly, firm, unapologetic. They informed him that his mocking behavior toward a child, toward a mother, disqualified him from a partnership he'd been aggressively pursuing. Millions of dollars evaporated with a single sentence. Damien's face drained of color. The room that once seemed to revolve around him now felt impossibly small. Nina didn't gloat. She simply took Amani into her arms, holding her close as the little girl's hands fluttered against her cheek, unaware that her innocence had just dismantled a giant. That night, Nina walked home not defeated but transformed. She had stood against cruelty and won. And it leaves us all wondering, in a world that still turns privilege into power, how many more mothers must fight just to be treated as human? Thank you for watching. Share this story, reflect on it, and subscribe for more powerful voices that deserve to be heard.